Hi everyone, welcome to Open Table with Tito. Today I have Eva Chen. She is a purpose-driven entrepreneur and also the founder of Brand from Within. She's a very successful person, and I call her, a millionaire, and she's excited to share her journey with us today. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Great. I'm doing wonderful.
Yeah, nice to have you on Open Table with Tito. So today it's going to be pretty simple, and I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions, and we'd like to learn about your journey, some of the things you've done that's worked for you, and we'll go over the topic we probably are going to speak about today, and then we just wrap it up.
Okay.
So I'd like you to share a brief story about yourself.
Yes.
How you describe yourself from someone who built from rags to riches. So I want you to share a brief story about yourself, especially for our viewers.
Definitely. Well, I at a very early age, I was really wanting to find my calling in life. And I was a big believer in that if you found your calling and what you were meant to do in this world, then the money would come. And I still believe in that. But after 20 years of that journey, which was amazing, I created so many things, and I discovered myself and my voice and everything through the journey. I really was neglecting sustaining myself. And what I mean by that is wealth building. And I just focused so much on my business and ignored like the principles of money. And it wasn't until I had health issues, burnout, and just ruined relationships that I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a break from this and focus on investments and wealth building while I work on my purpose-driven business to sustain myself, because I wanted to give from a full cup. And that's the thing, is when we're working on our business and we don't have like money in the background building wealth, then there's a lot of fear and anxiety and scarcity issues, and it's just not fun. And so that affects your whole psyche. It affects just the whole journey. So what is the point of doing good things in the world and creating this business if it's going to ruin your health and your relationship? So that's when I discovered that something needed to change.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Wonderful story you shared. And amazing. Yeah. So follow-up questions from me is entrepreneurship, like brand from within. Like, what was that turning point for you, and why did you go into that? Why not you building a 9-to-5 career? Why did you switch to build something for yourself?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a great question. I mean, I am not built for the 9-to-5. I mean, I always, I wanted to create something for myself, and I wanted to, create my own path, and I had my own ideas. And so I knew that wasn't for me. And not to say the 9-to-5 is not, doesn't work. It just depends on your personality type. So I'm just really good at starting things, and I have a lot of ideas, and I'm a visionary. So that's all great, but building the team and the execution was the part that really burned me out, and I struggled with. It was, and it's a lot. I mean, that's why over 80% of entrepreneurs fail.
Yeah.
And even VCs, when they have the smartest people and all the money, it's still 80 to 90% fail. So that's when I was like, well, there has to be a different business model.
Yeah.
Like, why do we have to put all of our eggs in one basket? And that's when I took my skills and being a visionary, looking at companies and ideas. Like, if you look at the stock market, all these are proven companies that always do well and always grow. So why they have like 100% almost success rate if you're thinking about like the big like Mag 7, right? So why wouldn't you diversify and build your wealth so you could give from a full cup, right? And focus on your purpose-driven business without having to think about all the bills and am I going to be able to pay all my bills and the feast or famine and all that kind of stuff. So especially if you're purpose driven and you want to make a difference and you want to make an impact, it really saddens me to see people with so much great intention struggle so much. And it doesn't have to be that way. Because investments in wealth building is actually the opposite. The less you do, the better off you are, because it's about patience. And business is about doing. And doing more and taking more action. And so it's kind of like two things that can work together. And now, I mean, I can't believe in like 2 years that how much things have changed for me. And so I was just running on a hamster wheel thinking that there was this only one way to freedom and to making an impact. And there isn't. You know, you really need to focus on money, your budget, knowing how money works, knowing how leverage works. You know, I basically took advantage of an opportunity, knew how to use leverage, and found some companies to invest in that you know turned out, you know, paying me over 1,000%. You know, like it was just. I just took advantage of opportunities, and they're everywhere. They're really everywhere.
Yeah, that's that's very beautiful to know. And I'm still going to ask you a question about leverage, you know, and because that's one of the main core of what we're discussing today. But I want to ask you about the stock market, right? You went to the business school in '91, right? And you started investing in the stock market, right? And like you said, you made a lot of money. I know you as a very successful investor. And why the stock market actually? Why was that the tool you used to build wealth? And why did you go into that area of making money, right? I know you touched on it being like they are well-established businesses, right? But why the stock market? Because so many young people now, so many people are trying to build something, but they lack the capital, right? They just want to they want to build something for themselves, but they lack the capital. But why did you go into that aspect of building wealth through the stock market?
Through the stock market? Well, it's similar to my business, Brand from Within, where I'm looking at ideas and people. And the stock market is the same thing. I love, like I'm a visionary. That's one of my strengths. And looking at businesses, how they operate, their ideas, the management. It's really not the stock market. You're really an investor. When you buy stocks, you're really an investor in the company. And so it was fascinating to me. I love research. I love ideas. I love thinking about the future. And I really enjoyed it. It was kind of similar to my business of helping small businesses, but on a much, smaller scale, like thinking about strategy and branding and things like that. So I had like a pulse of it, except, the stock market was passive. It's the best, I call it like pajama job. You get up and you're in your pajamas and you make money in bed in your pajamas. And that's how it works. So you don't have to do anything. You just have to have, I've been doing it for over 20 years. So I've made a lot of mistakes. I've lost a lot of money, but I finally, got a rhythm of hedging and knowing a lot of it is about psychology. I'm also really into psychology and the fear and just the sentiment in the market. And I just had a good pulse of it after 20 years. And I just know how it works in terms of it's up and down. and it's media driven and news driven, and looking for like outlier things of companies that had come down because of bad news or sent me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're looking for opportunities, like arbitrage kind of things. And a lot of times when there's news that's noise, we all know that news is noise.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity.
Yes.
And so it's a lot about, and that's kind of the reason why I started my business. I've never been somebody to kind of follow the masses and follow the herd. It's like, you're buying the stock when nobody else kind of wants it, when it's low and there's a bad article or something that is false. And so it takes that mentality of thinking different, not buying into the masses, fear-driven stuff, and believing what you believe, and knowing what you know.
Beautiful. Now, one thing I want us to go into now is, to discuss about leverage.
Right.
You've really spoken a lot about the stock market, and I also know it as a great tool to build wealth. But let's discuss leverage. And I want us to touch on leverage and how important leverage is for you, and what you think about leverage. So can you share with me, with your personal story, what you think of leverage, and how best can our viewers use leverage to, one, build wealth, and also take opportunities in life?
Okay, great. That's a great question. So the first part is just about leverage to build your life. I mean, everybody is unique.
Yeah.
Everybody has their unique strengths. And, even when you look at a business, it's about looking at the maximum point of leverage. Like, what are they so good at? They have the niche, they have this thing dialed down, and it's going to have a certain return. And so why not leverage the heck out of it? Right? So people often use leverage before they find their little sweet spot. So there's lots of leverage of your strengths, your personality. Like, there's leverage of so many things. You have so many different assets, like situations that you're in, networking, your relationships. It's not just about money and access to capital. And so when you think about leverage, it's like, how can I leverage like the best of me? And there's like a assessment called Strength Finders, and they say that when you're in your strength zone, you're 10 times more productive. So that's an example of leverage. So that's leverage for the person. Leverage what's important to me, leverage my personality. Maybe you're really good with people, everybody, so that can dictate what kind of careers you would go into. And usually when you're really good at something, you're going to feel more fulfilled. So that's the first part of leverage. The second is leverage in like the capital markets, and understanding that. I mean, when you have there's just so many different financial instruments that use leverage. There's, I'm not going to get into it, but there's a lot that where you can be making interest and dividends, like leveraged ETFs. There's all kinds of things where you can, and different things. And I mean, I'm not going to get into it with like options that don't take margin. These are not high risk things. It's actually low risk, because sometimes buying a stock and holding it is risky because you never know.
Yeah. And
so there's a lot of things in the financial markets that use leverage. And so it's and money is like a neutral energy, and a lot of people have like beliefs and issues around it. Like I thought for a long time I was you have to work so hard for money, right? And I think that's the belief. And then when after like a decade or two in my business, I was like, I'm not going to be able to make it. Like, I'm going to get really tired, right? And that's where like a lot of people that create wealth are just really smart about investments and leverage and opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's just like a click of a button to invest in a company or buy some shares of a stock. And when you see like, gosh, it's that easy to make all this money. And then if I go out and do my consulting job or my strategy job, like get paid by the hour, it's a lot of intensive. Like for me to make that would be exhausting.
So, this is, really beautiful. And, everything you've shared just now just shows how much opportunity is out there. You just have to go and get it, especially with the stock market. But, taking away from, the finance part of it and talking about leverage on, with relationships, I wanted you to share, what do you think about, leveraging relationships in building, a business or building yourself or building, whatever project you want to build. How, to our viewers, how do you leverage relationships and with your own personal experience to build something solid, and how much is that important to whatever you're building?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, I think in general, if you are just a good person and you want to help people, you just are somebody of your word. And I mean, I can't believe some of the opportunities that have come to me because I just showed up for some people consistently. You want to like nurture your relationships, especially good like people that are like-minded. You want to, if you know people that have been successful before and you hang out with them, you'll see how they view money. And you ask any like self-made CEO, if he lost all of his money, he would have no problem. He would be able to like earn it back, and even these like crazy pay packages like Elon Musk, $1 trillion, they're doing that because the CEOs have this like certainty, they have this confidence, and to be around that is really good to kind of shift your money beliefs that really anything is possible. And people think limited. I mean, I know I had a lot of limited money beliefs, and like that I had to like work so hard, that it had to be so hard, and I wasn't able to sustain myself because I just didn't have that much energy. So that's when I finally like shifted and focused on wealth building and investments, and I felt bad about it. I was like, I felt like it was so transactional and I wasn't making a difference. But now, I can make a difference. I have, like I said, like I'm able to give from like a full cup. I'm able to give back. I'm able to take care of myself. I'm able to be more present with people, and so and then your heart-based business or your calling or whatever, that's something that you can do later on.
Yeah, awesome. And that's actually really key because you touched on something that's very important. Showing up for people, helps you build that leverage on relationship. Now, one thing I want to ask you is leverage on finance. Like I remember when we were chatting, you said something about building a business, not having capital, but falling back on like you rather build your capital before you build a business.
Yes.
And that's leveraging on finance. Can you shed a bit of light on how someone who doesn't have capital to start a business have not been able to fundraise, right? But are looking for opportunities to build capital, before they probably go into business. How, today, how possible is that? I think you were able to do that. And how did you do that?
I did that in the stock market. I mean, there's nothing, like it. I mean, it can be up and down. I think you have to be really patient.
Yeah.
But if you start learning about it and start watching stocks, start learning about these companies, especially now. I mean, this whole age of AI, we're probably out of like first, second, third, fourth base. We're probably not even at second base yet. So it's not, everybody talks about it's like this, like the internet, it's boomed and things like that. So but there's always opportunities. And so I think, people, there's, the people that have built the most wealth is like real estate, the market, and some less people have built it on a business. If you look at the success rate, these businesses, but the thing is on the stock market, those are just filtered. Those are the out of all the hundreds of thousands of companies, those are the few that have IPO that have been proven successful. And worthy to get the money. So of course, it's a better pool to select from. And so what I would do is, there's index funds, I would save, there's compounding interest. I would do a diversified portfolio and then chip away slowly at a business. I would, like, right now, there's so many incredible tools to minimize costs for your business, like especially with AI. So I would start small with the viable idea, test it, and then when you start making a little bit of income, like, invest more. I think sometimes people get caught in the whole, especially like with believe in your dream, like, and put all your money into it. Don't put it in wealth building or stocks, but put it in, like, sure, you need to invest in yourself. Investing in yourself is time and education, but definitely don't ever like throw all your money as like investing in yourself and your business, off the bat, if you don't have a proven idea. Like, put it into wealth building, grow that, and then, start your business in tandem.
Wow, that's powerful. So, back in the early 2000s, and you've been investing for about 20 years. And in the early 2000s, there was the internet boom, right? And that was when Amazon, companies like, Amazon, came out and, grew exponentially. Now, we're now in the AI boom, right? That's the AI beat now, and it's going. Do you see AI as the next internet boom, like there was in the 2000s? And do you think companies now riding on AI would probably do well in the next 10 to 20 years? What do you think?
I don't really think it's a boom as much as a big shift. I mean, it's a boom in terms of like the stock market, and there's companies that didn't make any money that are making way more now because there's different needs, like cloud and storage and all this bandwidth. Like, it's similar to the internet in that. And once that gets to a point where it's maxed out, then those companies will kind of flatline. But I think you wanted to think deeper, like, what are those implications for me? Because, like, jobs are getting taken away. If you think about AI, if you're in anything that is like a commodity type thing, like knowledge or anything, that's almost like it's more valuable to be. I mean, it's a little bit tangent, but to be more human and to be in like, so now is a great time to do something that AI can't do. Like, if you're going into healing or just being you know what I'm saying? Like, anything that is a little bit more emotional, I feel like. But the AI is definitely not like the internet. It's definitely, well, it is similar, but I think it's gonna shift more than the internet, because the internet was just something we could search and find things. This is gonna eventually like replace, the way we do things, and jobs, people's jobs.
So, right now there's so many companies riding on a wave of AI, right? And you have examples of companies like NVIDIA, who are producing GPUs, and have AMD, you have the TSM, producing, the semiconductor companies. Like, do you see these companies as the next, like, for example, Microsoft or Apple that have stood the test of time for over 20 years, and them being like, be, like them being profitable for the next 10, 20 years, riding on AI, because in the stock market, they're really doing very well now. Do you think they will keep doing well, in your own opinion, in the next 10 to 20 years?
I mean, I think it'll cap out at a certain point. And I think there'll be different types of companies, like more infrastructure of things that are newer. But then they're great companies, so they're always going to be on top of everything, and they'll probably, like Nvidia today is going to be way different from Nvidia 10 years from now, because they're going to diversify into the next thing, because they're building the chips it's probably going to be hit a max point. So I mean, if you look at Facebook, it's always morphing, because they have the money to get into. That's why companies like Facebook and Google invest billions on new technologies, new ventures, because they want to have exclusivity on new markets. Like Google is the only one in like new ideas and new concepts. Like they're all looking for that.
Beautiful. Now, let's like move away a little bit from the stock market. Let's probably move into startups and people trying to build business, right? So what would be your top advice for someone who is still struggling, trying to build a new business and has a 9 to 5, and is trying to have a side gig as a business, and, still struggling?
Yeah.
What would be your advice to such person?
That's a great question. Well, I mean, a lot of that is very similar to like what I was doing, brand from within. Well, it's really, it needs to start with you first. It's not like, okay, there's a need for, some tech thing here, or because what if you don't like it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it needs to start with like your strengths, your values. There's different ways to find this sweet spot. There's like the Ikigai in Japan, which talks about your gifts, what the world needs. And so basically it's that. It's like, how can I connect me, all of me, what I love, what I've learned, my natural gifts, what do I care about, and mind map it. And then I look at the market and what does the world need? Like, where is it trending towards? Like if I was in travel and did online travel and things like that, and I'm looking at the future market, I would say, you know what, if I was like had a lot of money and was a billionaire, like I would pay somebody to give me this incredible adventure experience in Brazil.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to pay for experiences, things like that.
Yeah.
If you're in hospitality, I would be thinking, okay, so then what do I love? Maybe I love, my friend just told me that she had a friend that really loved going to Oaxaca, and she was the expert in it, and now she leads groups to go down there. You know what I'm saying? So it could be something like that. And so it's like me plus what the world needs and where it's going, and just kind of find like a niche thing that is a lot of value, that you are kind of in a category of one, so that you can really hone in on who your ideal person is.
Beautiful. Now, so, as we wrap up now, I want you to just, talk about brand from within and what you're working on, things you're working on now. Because I know you as a very, busy person, you also travel. I know you're preparing to travel now. So like, what's your plan for brand from within, right?
Okay.
Yes, and what are you trying to achieve with it? And maybe someone here might also probably reach out to you and.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have created something new called Second Callings, and so basically that is what I've discovered is that I've had the privilege of meeting. So everybody is great. Everybody has an amazing idea, and I've been able to just create great brands and ideas. But I've noticed that give somebody a great brand and everything is set up on a silver platter.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's things that will get stuck,
Mm-hmm.
like you stuck, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of self-sabotage. There's a lot of mindset. There's a lot of like how we grew up that still affects us as an adult. So with second callings, it kind of merges a lot of like healing the past and a return to youth to kind of fine tune on like what our inner kid genius is, along with some of the imprinting that is getting in the way of adults. So I'm kind of merging entrepreneurship with a little bit of healing because I want people to be successful and be able to reinvent themselves, because a lot of us all of us were put into difficult situations, whether it be family, upbringing, or whatever, that we don't, it goes into the subconscious. So, yeah, that's my latest that I'm working on, is because I'm super committed to helping entrepreneurs succeed, and there's just things beyond strategy that stop us.
Yeah, yeah, and that's huge, right? There are things beyond strategy that stops us. Yeah. Eva, I want to say thank you, for, sharing everything you shared today, because I know like viewers have learned a lot from you today, especially, what you spoke about leverage, the stock market, building wealth. I think you've mentioned some very powerful things, that will really help a lot of people. So let me ask you this one final question. So what is next, for you, apart from brand from within? Like, what are you? I know you're traveling soon. What are the things you are looking forward to doing when you travel? And what's that thing that you probably, when you are, you have everything going at you, how do step it down and just take a breather from when the world keeps throwing things at
Yeah.
you, from experience? Because I know so many people here right now in the world are finding things very difficult because they're trying to build, and what do you how do you take a breather?
Yes, that's a great question. Well, like, I mean, that's all I do now is like take a breather and self-care, and just, it's not that I block myself from like what's going on, but I don't get caught up in it, because my energy is everything and your energy is everything. I mean, that's the most important asset you have. So I'm going to protect it. So I don't let negative things get in my, try not to, in my environment. And, it's ironic, the more I've taken care of myself, and the more I've been able to thrive. And I've been doing things that I never got to do as a child. So part of my new project, Second Callings, is kind of like a return to my youth and play. And I think that like if we all played more and had more fun, and that's what travel is, and we're in more like joy and ecstasy, then we wouldn't have like a lot of the things that are going on now. So I think that the seriousness has gotten like really like almost, it's a little bit harmful now. Like we need to lighten up and go out and have a good time and just be like kids again.
So yeah, be like a kid again. Go out, enjoy yourself, have fun, and it's going to be solved at the end of the day. Thank you, Eva. Thank you for sharing everything. I've learned a lot from you. Ever since I met you, I've learned a lot from you, and I'm appreciative of the fact that you could come and share, this. When I first met you, I was like, no, this has to come on the, open table, and people have to hear from you, from your experience, because based on, what I preach on my channel, the stock market, wealth, how to build, people will be like, can I build wealth through stock market? And I think you are a perfect example that can happen.
Yes,
that can happen
with very little money.
Yes. So with very little money, Eva has built a ton of wealth from stock market, so it's very possible.
But you don't want to take risks. Like I've been there where, but it's just, yeah, I mean, maybe you'll do a little group thing, and I'm happy to share more detail, but yeah, it's just start learning about it and start small, and and start now. The earlier you start, the better.
Yes. You see, start learning about it, start small, and start now. Thank you so much, Eva.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you. And I know you are going on a trip, so I wish you, all the best on your trip. And just enjoy yourself. Yeah. Thank you, guys. And this is Titobi from Open Table, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Have a good one. Bye bye.